Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today we're speaking with Tazima Parris from Infinite Relating. Tazima is a sex coach and pleasure mentor for high-achieving women, so 35 and older, who are recovering overthink, overgive, and end up overwhelmed. So she creates a space for women to talk about this and to really relate to themselves. And I think does a service to the community here in Evanston, Skokie, and beyond. But thank you for joining me here today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. I'm looking to learn here, to have a good conversation and hopefully break the ice for people here in the community who feel that it's uncomfortable to talk about sex, even though it's something that is the way that we all got here.
It's so fundamental. It's so fundamental.
It is fun and demental.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. As I say, if you have a belly button, sex had something to do with how you got here. So we might as well talk about it.
Might as well. And, just to give a shout out here, the way that I met you was through Dorothy Rosen from Women Belong. Mm-hmm. And we were talking and she's like, I said, who do you think would be a good guest on Inside the Skev? And she immediately thought of you. And, it's an interesting topic. I've had people on from, all different types of businesses and organizations, but never sex. So this is great. And, for those who, just start off with the basic, I think a lot of people may not have even heard of a sex therapist. What is that profession? So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I want to make a distinction. There's a difference between a sex coach and a sex therapist. So I'm a sex coach. Right. A sex coach is someone who coaches. A therapist is a therapist. And the way I make the distinction between therapy and coaching is that therapists tend to focus on what happened in the past. Let's undo or heal or deal with those past events. And then from that place of healing and resolution, let's move forward. As a coach, I deal with slightly different topics than therapists, but I'm working from where are you now? I am informed a little bit by your history.
Sure.
So that you can create the next steps to move forward, regardless of what has happened. So I often work in tandem with therapists in order to get people to where they want to go. So now let's talk about sex coaching in general.
Yes.
Now, sex coaching
sounds like more fun.
Yeah, I think it is. So sex coaching is actually me helping people understand what is going on for them. And what I'm specifically doing is helping people to recognize the way that we've been socialized around sex and all of the judgments that we have for ourselves about sex because of how we've been enculturated and made to think about sex as something shameful, sinful. And it doesn't really matter what your specific background across the board. Yeah. Pretty much sex is viewed as shameful in our modern society. In other cultures, especially indigenous cultures, sex is not a problem. And there are some modern cultures that don't have problems with sex, but generally because this is it's a Christian kind of society in general, although we have many faiths here, that kind of Christian morality around sexuality, that everything around sex is bad unless you're using it for procreation, is kind of the standard that people are dealing with. And so when I step in to help people out, I'm not coaching in the bedroom, literally. I'm not pointing.
That's one of the questions. Like, are you there watching and giving tips?
Not at all. I'm actually way less about tips, and I'm more about people cultivating a healthy relationship with their own sexuality. So when they show up with sex, to have sex or to participate in sexual activities with another person, they'll be ready to do so, or they'll be able to ask for what they need, or say, hey, I have a limitation here. Could we do something different? Or negotiate in ways so that the sex that they're having is not actually causing them more trauma than they came into the situation with. How about that? And then, of course, I do have clients who are like, I can't orgasm, or it takes me too long, or there's something going on with me that I have an emotional block, or I have something going on that stops me from being intimate with my partner. And I want to get through that. So sometimes I can help people directly. Sometimes I'm working in tandem with them and their therapist. So I'll say, there are times when I'll say, hey, this issue that we just covered is going to be, I want you to take this to therapy and talk to your therapist about this also, because this has to do with some of the stuff that I don't deal with, like the ins and outs of their childhood trauma. So I don't do that, but I do deal with how are you going to be when you get to the bedroom tonight?
Right.
Or today, or tomorrow morning, or whatever, whenever you're there with a partner.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it, though, is like just being in touch with yourself, right? I mean,
Yes,
so
indeed.
is it about just being comfortable and vulnerable with yourself in many ways? How do you get that to happen?
Yeah, so huge. I'm so glad you mentioned the word vulnerability, because not only is sex taboo, but also vulnerability is taboo. And we don't actually talk about that, but vulnerability is extremely taboo in our society. Think about any time someone is crying or they're feeling like deeply emotional, what do they first do? The tears are coming, then they say sorry. Why? Because it's wrong to be sad when someone else can see you.
Right.
So
Isn't that
we're
weird?
it's right. So if we're upset about crying and we're apologizing for crying, something even more vulnerable, like being naked or talking about sex, is a way higher stakes.
Yeah.
Tears is one thing, but like sex and talking about it is way higher stakes, way more vulnerable. Also, everyone has some kind of baggage around sex where they were told something about it was wrong. Everyone, 100% of people, I am confident about that.
Yeah.
100% of people in, let's say 98%, fine, for my mathematicians out there, okay?
Yeah.
But pretty much everybody is coming in with some kind of trauma around sexuality. And if everyone's traumatized and no one's talking about it, how are we ever gonna have a healthy way of being with sexuality?
Right. And I think a lot of it is, like you said, it's like a religion, it's, a Christian viewpoint.
Yep.
or what I mean, if you talk Judaism, Islam,
Yep.
Christianity,
Yep.
it's all very similar in how it views
Absolutely.
sex. Yeah. And, premarital, and even, for me, from the Jewish faith, just
Yep.
knowing like all the regulations that go around when you can have sex with your
Indeed.
husband or wife, and the times of the month that you can't, and you have to be pure and go to a mikvah to dunk and bathe, and you have to be checking yourself. Like it can make you mental. Like how do you, like, why do we do these types of things to make ourselves so stressed out about this, something that should give us so much pleasure?
Yeah. So I'm not going to answer it from the place where you asked the question. I'm actually going to go way deeper than that. Okay. So let's go way back in history. And let's look at the birth of the time when these Abrahamic religions came out. We were already agriculture people. So there was already agricultural society. And part of what happened when we moved from hunter-gatherers to agricultural societies, and I don't care if you believe in creationism or evolution, that's not important to this particular conversation.
Right.
When we moved to agriculture and ownership of property and ownership of land and ownership of things, in a society where women were held as property, it became important to the person who's passing property down through generations, through the patrilineal line, to know the paternity of the child. The only way to know the paternity of the child, supposedly, is if you protect the virginity of the woman or girl who you're purchasing from her father. Like, let's like really break it down. Like, let's really take a look at what's happening here, which, by the way, in our modern society where Roe v. Wade was overturned, if you look at it from a property standpoint and productivity of that property for the estate to which that property belongs, the law makes total sense. What they're attempting to do by taking this right away from women, they're looking at women as property. So in terms of property, it makes sense for them to want to control the productivity of that property.
Because they want to see more babies from that property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the well-being of the estate, for the financial well-being of the estate, not for the well-being of the woman who's involved. She's property. So I say all that to say we can't even talk about someone's sovereignty around their sexuality until we take a look at how we even got here to decide how we're holding our own sexuality and our own relationship to ourselves. So regardless of what your background is, for women to be held in this way is going to affect how they view themselves, because virginity becomes important, being pure becomes important, and also the other thing about women being property and being a product and chattel is that because women had more biological functions than men, they were seen more as more animalistic. And so men are purer and closer to spirit because they're less like animals. Like, it's a whole mentality.
I haven't heard that before.
I know, but it's in our culture. Like, it's just in there. We don't talk about it, but that's sort of the basis of why are women seen as more like kind of other, because they have all these other functions that men don't have. And men's bodies were held as the standard for how a human should be. But if you're not even accounting for all of these other activities that a woman's body has, then it seems weird and othered. So I hear you on and I'm familiar with the purity rites in Judaism, and also in other religions. I study a lot of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know, I get
This
it.
is your field.
This is my field. I mean, also I'm particularly curious about that religiosity, spiritual connection between like that and how we're translating that into our everyday life, including through sex. So I'm saying all this to say there's a particular kind of bias that we hold, that it's happening below our level of awareness, where we're more sort of focused on kind of the surface level symptoms of these underlying hard-held values that are supposed to be sort of the right. It's just right that, yeah, that totally makes sense. It's come down through so many generations of people, and this is the way that we do it.
Yeah.
And so no one's questioning it. But I'm here to question all of it. And I want to be clear. I believe that I love spiritual traditions of all types. I love humans wanting to get closer to the divine. It's amazing. And some of the cultural pieces that got added into the messages around sexuality are extremely detrimental to not only women, but every human involved.
Right.
People of all genders are suffering because of these long-held beliefs that were established at times that do not exist now, under conditions that do not exist now, with less information that we have now. So don't abandon your spirituality. I love that. What I am asking folks to take a look at is, are you okay with the beliefs that have been passed to you without questioning them? And is that healthy for you? And if it is, cool, carry on. If it's not, let's talk about it. Let's figure out a way that's going to work for you.
Right. And we clearly have questioned these things, no matter, if you're spiritual, because the way that things were done 2,000 years ago are not how things are done today. I mean, you look in the Bible and, some of the characters were sold off as 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
And you look at what happens in some cultures today, and young girls are still sold off as brides. And you do have, situations across cultures where there's, polygamy, polygamous societies where one man owns a bunch of women. So it can, we don't, here in American society, I don't think that most people view that as okay. So cultural norms change over time for sure.
They sure do.
Yeah.
And one thing I also want to make clear here is we have an opportunity to have an adult conversation about sexuality. Everyone does. If they're an adult, you have an opportunity to have an adult conversation about sex. Now, whether we feel comfortable about that is a whole different story. Right. You may not feel comfortable about it, but you do have the opportunity. And if you think about so let's take PE, for example. So physical education in, grade school or middle school or high school, it has a certain effect. Mostly it's run the kids, teach them some skills.
Right. But then like fifth grade, they tell them, they have the girls in one room and tell them about. Yeah.
And we're separating, so automatic shame. Like, let's not talk about it around the other.
Let's not tell the boys that the girls are going to need tampons.
Yeah. and like, let's look at like gym class itself. If you use gym class skills only to deal with your fitness as an adult, is that going to work? Not necessarily, because you might hate softball.
Right. Yeah.
So similarly, just like we had some information that we were given as kids in sex ed, we should update our information for who we are now. Yes. I highly recommend we get an updated version of sexuality rather than what we learned in fifth grade. Yeah. Or sixth grade, or on the schoolyard, or, on the phone with your little friends.
Or watching porn.
Yeah. We need updated conversations about that. The only way that you transform something is to address it and talk about it. It will not be transformed. We see what happens when stuff just gets left to chance.
For sure. Yeah, we had a pandemic that...
Yeah. We've got to talk about it. We've got to face what's happening, people.
So how do you go about talking with your clients about it? I mean, what's your typical client? How do they get to you? And like, how do you start these conversations and actually see change?
Yeah. So two things. One is that the clients that I have are people who want to talk about this. They may not know how, but they definitely want to talk about it. I have no interest in convincing someone that it's important to talk about sex. I may be talking about it passionately here because I love this stuff. But it's not up to me to convince people that they need to update their sexual education. So that's one piece. So all my people are people who want to address something in their lives. What I find is that the women who come to me tend to be highly educated, super smart. They figured out a lot of things in their lives, but they can't figure this out. Mm-hmm. The things that they use to be successful in the rest of their lives don't work. I promise you, most of my ladies have multiple degrees, sharp as a tack. They're really fabulous people, and they're dumbfounded. Like, why is this not working? Whether it's some aspect of their relationship, or why they feel shame in asking for what they need from their partner, or if they're out there dating and they're just struck by how little they can have a conversation with their prospect, or they're too ashamed to ask for something different, or they've had a particular experience. Some of my favorite clients are ladies who have gotten divorced after a bunch of years. They're my favorite.
Why are they your favorite?
Because they're so like, many of them were married for 20, 30 years, something like that. And either their partner has passed on, or they got a divorce because it wasn't working. And they're like, okay, but now I have to date. But they literally have the dating skills of a 20-year-old at 55, 60 years old. And so what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to move out there? Maybe they've had one kind of sex their whole life because they were in this marriage, this monogamous marriage, where they weren't experimenting. They were just doing what they were told. In one lady's, to quote one of my clients, she was like, yeah, I just wait 2 minutes and then it's over. And I'm like, girlfriend, wow, no, like it can be so different, sweetheart.
So no thinking about themselves, really.
Yeah. Like sex is a service for a lot of women. Wow. For a lot of women, it's not about their pleasure at all. They have no concept of what it might be like for them to have pleasure during sex. It's literally has been a service or used to keep the peace in their relationship, as a functional tool to make some babies. And it can be so much more. It can be so much more. And I'll drop a little factoid. Women's sexuality and desire is actually much larger than men's. Our capacity for pleasure is actually much larger than men's. And I want to also acknowledge that there are more than one gender. We're on a gender spectrum. Even our genitals are on a spectrum. That it's not just a penis or a labia. It's literally, we have everything. We have penis to vulva. Like, there's everything that could possibly happen on that spectrum is possible.
Too, and even calling a vagina, you think is
vagina
accurate way of.
It's not an accurate word for what you can see on the outside. The vagina is actually just the hallway from the cervix to the outside world. That's all the vagina is. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's not an accurate word for what we're actually talking about. If you're talking about the visible genitals on the outside of the body, that is called the vulva.
Yep.
Period. And when we don't call it the vulva, you're taking away the opportunity for women to have pleasure, because within the vulva, not the vagina, are all these organs that have all this pleasure. Number one being the clitoris. The clitoris is actually made of the same material as the penis. Men just have an outie and women have an innie. It's literally the same erectile tissue. The same. There's nothing that is created differently. It's the same. It's just in a different format. It's an innie versus an outie. And the fact that people don't know this is huge. Huge. And it has massive impact. It's like asking a man to have a climax and lots of pleasure just by touching his testicles. That's what it's like by expecting women to have a vaginal orgasm only with no other stimulation.
Do most women know that?
No. It's deeply upsetting.
I mean, why isn't this taught when there's sex ed being
Porn. Porn. Rom-coms, Hollywood, anything that you see in Hollywood, every Hollywood sex scene has almost no conversation. There's no, I want it like this, or like, could you move here? My leg is cramping. No one is saying anything. It's just a montage of bodies and like, and simultaneous climax. No, it doesn't actually happen like that. I mean, yes, there are times when you don't need language because you're in tune with your partner. That can happen, sure. But like, typically you actually do have to like have a little conversation before, some words during, and I recommend people have a conversation after.
Yeah, not just get up and leave. You know, I don't know if you watch the show Family Guy.
I have watched it, yes.
So this past week, the whole episode was about oral sex with women, you know, and they weren't having a good relationship because Peter wouldn't do this for Lois. And then like I think they go to a sex coach.
Yeah.
And then like the relationship is he gets hypnotized. so he has a trigger whenever a song comes on. And the whole episode is about this.
Oh my gosh.
But it's just like, that was the first time I think I've ever seen anything like.
I'm going to have to look it up.
On regular media where they're just talking about, women's pleasure. Like
yeah. And we need to discuss it. And my other title is Pleasure Mentor. So sex coach and pleasure mentor. The reason I even have to be a pleasure mentor is because women don't know how to prioritize pleasure for themselves. We're physically wired, literally, in our brains. We are wired to put others' needs before ours. And the society exploits that natural trait of a natural female person. Because of that, because of the overlay of society diminishing, putting pleasure first, or making it a sin to find yourself in pleasure, and especially sexual pleasure. Oh my goodness. Don't have sexual pleasure. You're a much better, higher quality woman if you don't like sexual pleasure. Just dislike it. It's better for you, and you'll do better socially. You'll get affirmed socially if you're a prude and you just tolerate sex. with your husband, because you're not allowed to have sex with anyone else except your husband. So get married and have a husband. So we're in this situation where chastity is valuable, but having sexual pleasure for yourself is not, and is seen as diminishing your value as a person. That's terrible.
It all goes back to the ownership.
It's terrible. So we have this huge block around how we're going to get through it. And that's literally what I'm picking apart and helping people to address. How are you being affected by what you believe, and what are we going to do differently now? Let's do some experiments. And one of the things I always start with is putting pleasure first. Hashtag pleasure first. I say, do it early and often. That's not, I mean, I'm talking about low stakes pleasure, like not even sexual, like what kind of foods do you like? What type of time of the day do you like? Is there a particular activity you enjoy that is non-sexual? Do that thing for yourself before you do anything else in your day, so that you start the day off with something yum.
Yeah. It
changes your day.
It changes your complete perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some people talk about gratitude. I'm here to talk about pleasure. Like, yes, gratitude works. I use that myself. And when we put pleasure first, specifically for women, I'm not talking about men. Men's brains work a little bit differently. And also the society is supportive of how the male brain works.
Right.
But when women do this for themselves, it changes their ability to be generous. It reduces resentment. It helps them to be more connectable. They're more powerful. They're more clear. Boundaries that they have get supported. They're able to communicate those boundaries. It's fascinating. And that's why I start with it. I don't even start in the bedroom. I start with, what are you doing for yourself? It raises their standards, and then they can ask for what they want. I will help them to talk about sex specifically, but if we don't start with pleasure, we can't even get there because she's too resentful.
Right. And you may not even know what makes you feel happy.
Exactly.
So you have
because you've been putting other people's needs before your own for decades.
Yeah.
And when you have a legacy of that kind of activity, this is a really hard habit to break.
I mean, it's integral to your being.
Yep.
What do you think of monogamy?
Monogamy is cool. I think it's fine. We're not necessarily built for monogamy, which is why it's hard. That's why it's hard. Not because we're just not naturally monogamous. And I know that some people feel more comfortable in a monogamous relationship. And I'm saying it's because we're not built for it. In hunter-gatherer cultures, monogamy wouldn't have made sense. It made more sense when we moved to an agrarian culture.
Yeah.
It made more sense. It's it's logistically, it makes sense. It's fine. And I don't have any judgment about people who want any particular relationship style. It's totally fine. And understand that all of the ways that we are biologically wired, monogamy is not included in that. We've been socialized toward monogamy. And I'm not an evangelist for non-monogamous relationships or ethically non-monogamous relationships, but I think there's a lot of value in the community, specifically around how to communicate effectively inside of a relationship, how to stay current with your partner, how to be transparent, how to be vulnerable, because in the best ethically non-monogamous relationships, that's a constant necessity. It's not just a nice to do that you learn from your therapist, how to talk nice to your partner. No, it literally will not work if you have multiple partners if you're not communicating. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to have, potentially be exposed to something they don't want to be exposed to, traumas, like any number of things if we're not having high quality communication. And because ethical non-monogamy literally is a framework in which you have to have communication in order for it to work, monogamous people can absolutely take some best practices from that community, as well as other communities that I belong to, of how to communicate and how to be truthful and how to be vulnerable and how to really create deep intimacy through being vulnerable, through being transparent, through telling the truth about what's going on for you. And if we don't do that, we don't have as much access to the intimacy that we all desire. Mm-hmm. I tell my clients, you cannot get to the land of intimacy without going through the valley of vulnerability. You got to go that way.
That's hard, though. I mean, do you see a lot of people coming to you because they're having these types of issues? I mean, these women who've been married 20, 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. The distinction I would make is that for those who've been in long-term relationships, if they're resigned to it's just going to be the way that it's going to be, there's not much I can do for a person who's resigned. This is just how it is. Okay.
They're most likely not coming to you anyway.
They're not.
Yeah.
Some of them will peek. They'll peek in. They'll be like, "What's happening over there?" I think I want that, but no, I'm too scared. And it's fine. It's fine. When people decide, I want something more for myself. I want to feel more confident. I want to feel clear. I see myself as a disruptor of the women's empowerment movement because generally the way women's empowerment culture works is that it's masculine light. How to be accountable, how to be powerful, how to be confident, how to be all these things that are pretty much
to make women like men.
Yeah, pretty much. However, women become all those things when they have sexual agency, when they have put their pleasure first inside of this society, which takes work. It's like building a muscle, like because of how socially unacceptable it is for us to take care of ourselves. It's a radical act for you to say, you know what? No, I will not do the 17th thing that my life is asking me to do. I'm going to pause and take a moment for myself and meditate, or go get a massage, or just walk in nature because it feels pleasurable to me. That is a radical act. How ridiculous do we have to have that taking a walk for yourself, someone has to feel guilty about making that choice?
You know, in my line of work, being a real estate agent, I don't have a boss. You know, I have clients, but like I don't have a 9 to 5.
Right.
And before I was doing that full time, I had bosses, and you know, had to be in the office or whatever it may be. And then you start to have this freedom, and it's like, well, I don't have anything going on right now. I guess I can go take a walk. I can go exercise. I can, go have lunch with this person or whatever. And it's like, oh, am I being bad? Like, it's such a strange thing.
It's a real question.
But I'm getting my work done. I'm making a living. Like, why am I feeling guilty because everybody else is doing one thing maybe a little bit differently than I am?
Yeah.
And it's really messed up. And it's almost like we're always comparing ourselves to the next person, and like, oh, well, I got to work more than you did. And people, like, I've heard of people boasting about how they were delivering their child, but they were responding to emails before they had a push.
No.
It's like, what?
No.
What is wrong with us?
It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And literal birth, like, she's supposed to get a medal for that. Like, oh, I'm such an effective person. No, it's terrible. That's
failing.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Be present.
Yeah.
Be present. And even being present is not really a cultural norm.
It's not. Everyone's got their phone and taking video of the thing that they're watching. Just be there.
Be there. From my observation, I have found that pleasure comes in through the senses. We perceive pleasure through the 5 senses. And in order for us to experience that pleasure, we actually have to be present. We can have this literal same stimulation and not be present for it and not experience pleasure from it. You can scarf down the delicious chocolate, or you can let it linger on your tongue. And you can allow the aroma to move from the palate into the olfactory glands and perceive the subtle hints of this or that in the chocolate, or you could slam the chocolate bar. What are we doing?
Right.
How are we choosing? And that's literally, am I going to, and I deal with this myself, am I going to, I have terrible road rage. It's terrible. Racing to the place, not because I'm late, but because I want to get there fast. By the way, I do get pleasure from speeding.
So that's
I like driving fast. It's true. I will absolutely admit that.
Yeah.
And my most favorite times in driving fast are those times when I'm present in the moment and like weaving and being in a space where I don't have to hit the brakes and I'm just like navigating these. It's like a little puzzle for me.
Yeah.
It's a fun game for me. To do that, and that brings me a lot of pleasure. But if I can see, sometimes I catch myself where I'm like angry at everybody because they're such idiots on the road, and don't you understand? I have somewhere to be. Like, I'm not in my pleasure. Yeah. I'm annoyed. And so sometimes I'll catch myself and just
gotta calm down.
Just take a little breath. Take a little breath.
When you talk about pleasure, though, I mean, and people who've been so uptight their whole lives and they're trying to explore things, do you ever see that people taking ecstasy changes the dynamic of how their sexual experience goes?
You mean the substance?
Yes.
I'm, of course, people taking substances to enhance pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. Would I suggest that? No.
Yeah.
I really want people to absolutely experience what pleasure, sensuality, our bodies have to offer. Our genitals have thousands of nerve endings.
There's no need necessarily for
You don't need more. So people are shocked when they hear, like, for many, many years, I only had sober sex because I was super straight edge. When I was a young person, like, I'm still a young person. When I was younger than I am today, I was so anal retentive that I just didn't want any intoxication at all in my life. Cause I was like, I don't want to be out of control. That's a different problem.
Yeah.
It's a different problem. And also I attract people who have like the control freak thing. So I acknowledge my control freak issues.
Vulnerable about yourself.
I got it.
Yes.
I'm real. And so having that experience of having all this, all these sober sex episodes where there weren't any substances, like I got to experience, this is what it's actually like. Some of my clients have never had, like they always have to have some wine or they always have to have something in their system in order to enjoy themselves. What they're attempting to do is diminish their
inhibitions.
Yeah, they're trying to diminish their inhibitions. They're trying to get out of their heads and into their bodies. And what I'm helping people do, some of what I help people do, is to be with their bodies no matter what's happening so that they can actually either make a request or determine what they want next, see their desire. Oh, I want more of this. I want less of that. Could we change the angle? Could we change the pressure, less pressure, slower, those kinds of things? Like, what are you experiencing? You actually have to be present. You cannot actually be fully present without, if you're numbing your senses with substances. There are certain substances that will heighten your experience because it makes everything kind of technicolor. Mm-hmm. But like, let's just get the basics down. Like, let's just get the basics. Cause if you're on a substance, you also may do some things that could injure you or may not help you to really be able to reproduce those same situations. I want pleasure to be reproducible. I'm a scientist. I've been a scientist, pretty much my whole life. I have a degree in science and I love scientific things. I want things to be reproducible. So how can we get in touch with being in our bodies, being with our pleasure, really knowing what in my body feels good? I see what they say is supposed to be good to me, and I don't have that experience. What is the truth for me? Mm-hmm. And the closer we get to that truth of our pleasure, and also I coach grown women. So many of them have had illnesses. They've had children or things that have happened as a result of an illness or childbirth or both that have changed their bodies. So their 20-year-old body has nothing to do with their 40-year-old body or their 60-year-old body or whatever their age is. It has there's something totally different that is happening in their body, and they have to renegotiate, what do I like now? Right. What do I like now? What's my pleasure for me now? Also, different conditions, different situations will produce different sensations.
Different partners.
Yeah, different partners. Exactly. All kinds of different factors. All the variables can be shuffled. Right. And then what do you do then? If you always did this one thing that worked with this one person at this one time, it doesn't mean that it's reproducible across all of the variables that could possibly change.
Right.
So how can you be present with what's happening right now so that you can make the most of the moment right now? Also, there's a whole thing about people and masturbation that, masturbation can be taboo depending on whose family you're from, what traditions you're from. And I also want to say that masturbation is the etymology of masturbation is terrible. It's actually to defile with one's hand, which is terrible. But I use the word so people know what I'm talking about. I prefer to call it self-pleasuring.
Yeah, that sounds better.
It's way better.
Way better.
But like I said, our vocabulary is informed by our society and the culture that we came through.
Right.
So there you have it. Masturbation is terrible. Anyway, so inherently in the word, there are many more shameful words. That's just,
it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, there are so many shameful words, even in the vocabulary of what the technical terms are for genitals. It's horrible. Anyway, that's another story. That could be a whole own episode. Yeah.
For sure.
But to go back to this, self-pleasuring is an opportunity for you to get to know yourself. Just like I would suggest that if someone has had a divorce, they need to get to know who they are as the adult who is post-divorce person. Like, who is that person? Similarly, with self-pleasuring, what does your body need now? What is your body like? And if someone has really harsh things about, self-pleasuring, they don't want to do it, there are ways to work around that, but it is definitely going to require you talking to your partner about what you like. And like kind of
that
more,
might be harder.
Yeah, an experimental session where you're literally just like testing things.
Yeah.
So that you can find out what works. And that's fine too. So if you want to do it partnered, that's cool. It's just another layer of complexity that it adds to what could be a much simpler experiment and much simpler exploration. So no judgment either way. The most important piece is that we have to get to know our bodies for what they are right now. Not what someone else says it should be, not for what society says it should be, not for what my former self says it should be, not for what my conditioning says it should be, but literally what it is for what it is.
Right. It's just take in the senses and feel. It's almost like a meditation for pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the best kind. It's the best kind.
It is.
I mean, I really dig it. I think we would have a much more peaceful planet if we could just make peace with pleasure.
Oh my God, yeah. Because everyone's so freaking angry.
Yeah.
if they could just
chill out, man.
I know.
Chill out.
What's the point? I mean, yeah, if everyone could just all this war would go away.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Promise you that there are people in high places who have really terrible sexual shame. I can tell. It's all over them. I was like, okay. You too. Okay, great.
We know what's going on.
We know what's happening. Well, I know what's happening. Other people are like, what is this person doing? What's their strategy?
Why are they so angry?
Why? I don't know why they're so angry.
Exactly.
World peace.
Right, world peace.
World peace could happen through pleasure. It could.
At least we could bring world peace to the Skev. So when people meet with you, do they come to your office? Like, is it over Zoom? What's?
Yeah, all of my programs are online. I've been coaching online since 2015, so the pandemic was no problem for me to make that transition. So yeah, I coach people virtually. I have people nationwide, clients nationwide. I have a few people out of internationally as well. So we figure out a time usually that will work for us. I also have a program that is a group coaching program that people can join, and I have 2 options for them to show up for the group coaching sessions on 2 different days. But yeah, what it looks like to work with me is I would have an initial chat with someone just to find out what's happening with you, just like if we were to meet at a coffee shop or at someone's party and I was there, or a networking event, and you say, what do you do? And I say, I'm a sex coach. And you're like, wait, what? I need that.
You're the life of the party.
I have to develop the skill of not monopolizing the conversation because everybody wants to talk about it. Like I'll be in the corner for like hours, having a workshop because people are so curious. Yeah. I'm like, no. I'm here to have party. Make way for the dip, right?
Exactly.
But so we'd have an initial chat as if we were at a party, or like we decided to get coffee to get to know each other to see if it's a fit. And if it turns out that my skills or information that I have will support this person, then I'll put them in contact with either the materials, because I do have some materials that people can study on their own, or we'll move into session, either a group coaching program where they listen to, the content and then come to talk about it in a group coaching atmosphere. Or I also have private client stuff available where we have an opportunity to talk one-on-one to customize all of the encyclopedic knowledge that I have about this subject and our society to their needs. And so we really customize it. I also have VIP programs that are in person, and they can come to, I have a few different locations that I'll use for that, where people can come and we go very deep and tackle some usually deep-seated issues.
Yeah.
And they'll come out of that with some significant tools for them to move forward. It's a deep dive day and other content to go with that. So yeah, there are a few different ways that people can engage with my work and my content. But yeah, I'm really excited that I have a few things that people can now work on their own, so that they can get some of this information. And then when they're ready to come talk to me for more personal work, then they're already ready and they've been like primed, and they're like, okay, I've already prioritized my pleasure and this is the results, but I'm having trouble here. And then we can customize from there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that people should be putting priority in.
Yeah.
You want to think about your financials, your exercise, your nutrition, or whatever. Yeah. This is a big part.
The cool thing is that it's like a flavor enhancer for everything you're already doing.
Yeah.
Like if people could get in contact with their pleasure and be at peace with their sexuality because they're sexually fulfilled. And by the way, I also want to say, being sexually fulfilled doesn't mean necessarily having sex. For some people, it might literally be that they're never having sex with anyone, but because they've chosen not to. But having the choice is what I'm after. Mm-hmm. Offering them a choice about what could happen for them, and then them making that choice for themselves rather than going with the default because it's socially acceptable. That's all I'm after. I don't care how you use what I say. I'm absolutely supportive of someone who wants to take a time of abstinence. Mm-hmm. Fine, do it. Don't have sex. Cool. And I want you to be at choice about it rather than being like, it's better for me to not have sex.
Right, because you're thinking of that through society. But
it's a value judgment. Right.
If you have the power to make that decision.
Yeah, that's called sexual agency. And most people don't have it. Most people don't have it. Most people are having sex by default or avoiding sex by default. there's no choice in that. There's just the rut.
No, that's a problem.
Yeah,
but
it's huge.
It's great that you're offering this. Where can people learn more about you?
So my website is infiniterelating.com, like the infinity symbol, but infiniterelating.com. I also have a free gift called the Sex Ed Refresh that I can also offer to folks. There'll be a link to that, I assume, in the show notes.
Yes, all these, everything will be in the show notes.
Yeah. And folks can find me on Instagram at Tazima Parris. Double R's on the Parris.
Yeah, that will be there too. But no, this is really fascinating. I learned a lot just about there's so much that goes into this, and so much of how we are programmed in society, of how we think about sex. Mm-hmm. And there's so much to unpack. I mean, you should have your own podcast.
Coming soon.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and you've been on other podcasts too. So if there's some where you get into a little bit more about the details of your experience and whatnot, and it's I think it's interesting to hear about it and to hear you be vulnerable about that experience. And I think a lot of people can relate to it. But I mean, I've certainly learned a lot. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here.
You're welcome. Hi, I'm Aaron Masliansky, longtime Skokie and Evanston resident, host of Inside the Skev, and local real estate expert. As a community connector and realtor with Dreamtown Realty in downtown Evanston, I know firsthand what makes the Skev such an amazing place to live. When I'm helping my clients buy and sell properties inside of the Skev or out, I'm doing it with the best technology and support team behind me at Dreamtown. During the pandemic, I've been able to help my clients seamlessly stay on track with their home search. From immersive 3D Matterport tours, professional photos, to virtual open houses, my clients can find their homes safely and comfortably, and even from their couch. When you're ready to make a move, know that I'll be here to help. You can always find out more about me at skevinston.com/real estate. Again, that's skevinston.com/real estate, or email me at aaron@skevinston.com.